Who is HomeMadeWaffles?
HomeMadeWaffles is one of the greatest contributors that Melee has ever seen.
Brandon is just the homie.
A quintessential community leader.
He is a tournament organizer, a commentator, a player. He's actually been like high level at all those.
Everyone's yelling. It's so hype. Oh, man, go, man, go, man, go, man, go. I'm punking controller, dog. I'm punking controller. Oh, my God. Press 1 if you feel bad for $100.
What makes something truly special? What transforms a game from something people like into something people are willing to travel around the world, pouring thousands of hours of their life into? If you ask me, it's the effort and magic of people like HomeMadeWaffles.
My name is Brandon Collier, competitive Smash Brothers, tournament organizer, commentator, all that stuff. My tag is HomeMadeWaffles or Young Waff.
There is virtually no other person who's contributed as much to the development of the Super Smash Bros. Melee scene as HomeMadeWaffles. He is truly the spirit of Melee.
I think his contributions are just like so wide. It's like the commentary, being a top 100 player all time, and now just TOing. So for me, I think he's one of the most important people in our scene, period, you know?
Brandon does so many things well. He's a tough spacey to play against. He's a natural-born TO. He's effortlessly funny and amicable. And when the moment calls for it, he's also this.
JV, you won't.
But no matter how deep you dig and how many people you ask, there's always another, deeper layer to the onion. There's always something else Waff is getting into and excelling at, all in the name of advancing the cause of Melee.
Mango's playing fucking amazing. I really don't see Tosh beating him. I'm punking controller, dog. I'm punking controller.
I started Melee in 2006, and I think what I love about the game is the pacing. There's always like something happening, and there's different type of pacings too. I like the competitive aspect of it. I gravitated towards that really early in my life.
That can't handle it.
Like most of us, Brandon started with a controller in his hand. Unlike most of us, he was actually pretty good, climbing as high as 64th in the world in 2016.
I remember I watched a set of Falcomist and Sound Inspector, shout out to both of them. And they played this crazy set and it wasn't recorded, right? And it's just like, yo, why don't we have like somebody documenting this? Because, you know, this could be pretty dope to look back on, you know?
He, was one of the first YouTube channels that the game's ever seen.
I just kind of got fascinated with the idea of recording a lot of moments.
He would just spend hours just like editing videos. Sometimes the audio would desync, and he'd have to just spend mad time clipping it, making it right.
This is back when I got to record on a VCR, then rip the VCR to a Dazzle, and then record the Dazzle. It was wild.
Even with his channel, like he put in so many hours that people haven't seen him, but it was hard. It was a grind. Wasn't a lot of people to help him. He just did it because he felt like it was shit that people needed to see, and it was what needed to get done.
And then, one day, something happened that no one could have ever predicted.
Happy feet. Wombo combo. That ain't Falcon.
Wombo Combo spread like wildfire, his clipped yells of joy and bewilderment laid beneath memes for a generation to come. The phrase Wombo Combo was shamelessly hijacked by League of Legends casters to describe every asinine time two people hit the same person to this very day. It brought an uncountable amount of curious eyes into Melee. From there, the snowball had just begun to roll.
It's one of those things where you put it up, you don't really know who's watching. I'm just thinking about the 30 people that I'm making these videos for. But I didn't think about the thousands of people who watched it and got into Melee because of it.
By that time, Brandon had already also stepped into a tournament organizing role, the kind that many top players find necessary to make sure they have a consistent place to practice with good players and train newer players too.
He does head director stuff at a level that a lot of head directors have to build up and learn to do, and Brandon's just good at that.
With Rob and the Blurs and the Sheridans, I think his name needs to start coming up, especially post-COVID. I think, Fizzy's obviously the GOAT. We got Fizzy. But I think Brandon, I think Young Waff is number 2. So I think the TOing people, he is a TO.
Well, I was TOing before the pandemic. So I was TOing in like 2017. I was TOing in the Made. Used to host a weekly there every week. I'd go.
It was a sort of thing where he showed up to one of my locals at FSFSU, and I was just like, do you have any help? Like, who's helping you? And he's like, oh, no one. So I'm like, I'm just gonna help you then.
There was like 15 of us. It was very small at the time. There was a vibe there that was so pure in terms of like local TOing, and this was after he's already been in the scene for like 10 years and as a commentator or whatever, and he's still into that vibe, and I think that's the thing I think about most.
There's a lot about Brandon that I think the general community don't see. He assembled the entire NorCal vault of full CRT setups and like got all the Wiis, made sure to update all of them, labeled every single CRT and cable and Wii with trackable barcodes so we know like who's borrowing what setup, where those are, how many is where. Genesis depends on that vault. Locals depend on that vault.
Homemade Waffles, as everyone knows him, at this point, he's like a living legend. He's a celebrity, an icon, right?
Brooklyn, New York. Cross-country carrying TVs, you know what I'm saying? It's a great night.
He still lifts CRTs to locals. He still drives the U-Haul. He doesn't get paid for anything like that. He just does it because he knows it has to get done. And that's something I've always admired about him, is that even though he could be the celebrity, amazing commentator that he is and just relax, like he's always down to do like the stuff that you have to roll up your sleeves for. So that's what I think like is the little things about him that people don't appreciate enough.
What happened next won't surprise any of you because, well, we all lived through it. The pandemic changed everything, and Homemade Waffles was quick to adapt and provide Smash players with a way to compete while, you know.
Like at first it started to be just the Made online, and then I was like, well, every other region is like, they need tournaments. It was just a lane that was just kind of like, nobody was really doing it. So I was like, all right, let me host different regions. And I did like every sub-region in the States. We did Central America, South America, Japan, other parts of Asia, Australia. I was waking up at crazy times to host some of these tournaments. So I just didn't think about the outcome. I just think about what's happening now and like how we can just make it better. It definitely changed my life in some ways, man. It definitely, my role in Smash was different.
If there's one thing Melee fans demonstrably love, it's a 16-player invitational.
Oh, the protagonist is here, though.
No.
With the Black Empowerment Melee Invitational, Brandon created a showcase for a lot of underrepresented talent within Melee. The money they raised, the matches that took place, the unbeatable atmosphere. I've been to a lot of tournaments, like a lot. BEMI was unforgettable. It really stands out.
The biggest reason why I did BEMI was like, shout out to Nico, he did a fundraiser for how it happened with George Floyd, right? I was happy about it, but it bothered me. It was like, it takes tragedy for shit like that to happen for us. I didn't want it to stem from a tragedy. I wanted us to be able to embrace each other and no one have to die for us to be able to host a tournament, for us to just embrace what black people have been through in this country, especially on Black History Month.
He just kind of taught me that when a really stressful situation comes up with people that you care about, you can do something even in as soon as 24 hours to like assist a cause or assist a person.
What really inspires me about him is that he has an idea and then he flushes it out. He does it. We'll have an idea. We talked about commentating, but then he does it.
I remember Phil talked about it. He was the one who like brought it up. What made me act on it was like the tragedy part, you know. It should take somebody dying in the street for us to really embrace ourselves as people.
A lot of his stuff is just, his shit is just selfless.
I'm just glad everybody was on board, really, because I couldn't have done it without anybody involved.
You won't find it in the air. Come down. Right.
That was killed.
My bad.
Wow. Now wait a damn minute, y'all. Hold up.
Ocean's taken.
The last few years have been tough for esports in general, and Melee was not spared the wrath and blowback of fickle investors and problematic CEOs. Once again, something had to be done, and Homemade Waffles stepped up.
Brandon's always working on something. And if he's always working on something, he's always working on like 3 other things at the same time. Given
that we were supposed to have 2 majors at the end of the year with Smash World Tour and Panda Cup, try to end 2023 on a good note. And I like to think with how the event went, that happened.
I don't think I've ever been to an event quite like Redemption Rumble. Just when you think you've seen it all, someone comes along and puts an event together that somehow combines the close-knit, homey feel of regional, the D-Gen atmosphere of a bar tournament, and the prestige of having title fight level bouts all rolled into one room and one New Year's Eve send-off.
My goal was to aim it to where it was like a balance. Like, I didn't want it to be too chill, where nobody was just like, where everybody was just super wasted, not doing shit. Why I put the redemption in there was like, we as a community redeeming ourselves for what happened. It takes all of us, not just me or production, anybody, like the players, like everybody has to be on board for something like this to happen. And I was just like, look, we could just do our best to show up and show out. It really means a lot to me that everybody looked out like that. Because they don't have to, you know, and it's not like I have like money. I'm not like a fucking organization. I'm just a guy, you know, who just wants to do cool shit. We're here now. So, you know, with only a couple of weeks planning, it was definitely less than a month.
So now seeing him get like that recognition and like things starting to come together and people noticing, I feel like it's been so long time coming.
Like, I'm from California, we're in New York, going across the country, and everybody over here is just, man, I'm spilling it, man. It means so much. It really does, so.
Man, this has been a wonderful time, man. Spreading good vibes and love, man. And we're just grateful that everybody, you know, could come together. You know, year after year, people always say, yo, it's Miller did, and then we just get some insane number of entrants, and it just keeps going forward. So it's like, for the new people, it's just like a new, fresh new experience. Mm-hmm. And then for a lot of people like us, right, it's like a family reunion. You go and you see people that you haven't seen in years, and it's always a good time.
Make a wish. Make a wish. Gotta make a wish and blow it out. Every Falco dies off
It's hard to imagine a person in any scene whose impact is more emotionally integral and logistically widespread than what Homemade Waffles is to Melee. He's the voice you hear when you think of the game's most exciting moments. He's the kind of warm soul who greets you when you walk into your first event. He's the old friend you see at a major that reminds you why you started playing and why you keep coming back. He's the role model that inspires people to take a more active role in their scenes and find ways to help them grow and flourish.
I feel like if I thought like everybody else in the situation, it's like, I'm not gonna do it unless I get paid, or sometimes I get paid, sometimes I don't. But it's more just like the idea of like, okay, these memories like live forever. This game changed my life, the people in it changed my life, and you know, I feel like it's only right to just like, you know, look out for those people.
For a game and scene that has to self-sustain, it falls on all of us to pitch in and help out people like Young Waff as they continue to keep everything running both behind the scenes and in front.
Subbing to Homemade Waffles is like paying the community tax. Kind of because like, I think at the end of the day, you know, we're very grassroots. No one's paid by like Nintendo to do what we do. And I feel like Homemade Waffles for like the longest time has just been the guy that's always on the ground making things happen. So I see his stream as like me saying like, I want you to continue doing what you're doing in the Melee community for as long as you can, as comfortably as you can.
I didn't feel like I would ever go anywhere doing it, personally. And I just thought, Will, would you play this game if you made no money? Would you play this, would you pay to play this game? You know, and I was like, yeah, I would. So a lot of people's best friends, life partners have come from just being in the scene. I just think in the long term, it's just like, yo, if I can make somebody have a lasting memory in the scene and just stick around just off of like action that I've done.
There's a lot of great contributors to Melee, but it's very hard to look at Brandon's accomplishments and not talk about how amazing he is. But he's also just a really good friend. To me, he's like on a Mount Rushmore of friends, if anything.
More like now, like I can come to New York and I have a list of people that I could contact. You know, like that wasn't a thing for me when I grew up. I didn't know fucking anybody in this. So the fact that I can go to any state all over the U.S. and tap into a group of people is like, it's very honoring. I'm blessed. I'm privileged because I've worked a lot harder in my life for a lot less.
Even just past Melee, just like what you want to be as a person, period. You know, past Melee, just a good, genuine person that is willing to like think about people outside of himself. So
he does just capture the spirit of Melee. He's just the guy. He's that guy.
Like the man himself, this game has changed so many of our lives for the better. I really don't think that happens without young Waff thumbing the scales for us all this time. Thank you, Brandon. I really don't think a lot of us would be here without you. We owe you so much.
Yeah, I love you, man. I appreciate you. You do a lot for the scene. You're a great guy. Good stuff.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest motivation is just, seeing people like engaged and happy. I think that's probably what makes me like always go for it. For sure.
Brandon! 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 Look out! Look out!
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, I have plenty of other stuff about Melee and tournaments and all that good stuff. So you should check it out. You should give it a look-see. You should watch it. Please watch it.